Broadcasting live from yet another fragmented strand of the strange, vibrating third dimension. I'm Ansary, and this is Outside the Box. Just got back into town 2 hours ago after a 6-hour drive from Bend, Oregon, North Bend, Oregon, actually, near Coos Bay. Actually, couldn't even make it home to shave and, of course, change in the jacket. So tonight, it's open lines, 503-288-4442. And then between your phone calls, I'm going to show a couple quick clips from my adventure in North Bend at the Lifelong Wilderness Survival School. Now, you can bring up that graphic after this one from Mark Weinart, who teaches this school down in North Bend. And you can give him a call, of course, if you want more information on registration. I want to say a few things before this first clip. I don't believe or perceive anyone that participates in survivalism to be an extreme radical. Now, that's a perception for some people. We talk about wanting to learn how to live beyond the confinement of the grid or the rules contained within the matrix-like system that we live under today. What is it like to live in a world where we have our own power? We have our own responsibility to get our own food, water, start our own fire, create our own shelter, have an alternative barter system. And with that, we'll be right back and then go to the first phone call of the evening. We'll be back in about a couple minutes from now.
This is my little cedar bow. And there's the string. This is just some nylon string we're using. And this is what you're going to practice and learn with. You can use your shoelaces, things for the string, whatever you happen to have on you. You can even twist part of your cotton pant leg for a string, whatever you need. This is a pretty small one for me. You know, this should be a little bit beefier. And so your bow should be about half your wrist diameter. The length should be armpit to fingertip, more or less. What kind of woods for the bow? Fresh, old? Should it be curved or straight? Anybody? I like a little bit of curve in mine, but you don't have to have it. You can be straight. So, knife safety, right? Am I going to turn that knife around and cut like this? No. The length on the spindle is about 9 inches, 8 to 9 inches, and Mark's used his, so it's a little bit under 9 inches, but that's a nice. So again, I use, body part, so to measure with. So thumb to stretched out forefinger is a nice length. Before you make your notch, you have to burn on your fireboard. You have to measure it and burn your spindle. You see that, right? Kind of complicated, huh? I have a plank here. We're going to go actually collect some more cedar, and this is off a fallen cedar tree I ripped off, and we'll go get some more chunks for you. So you're just creating friction, and that notch, with the grinding of the wood, it fills up that notch and kind of creates insulation in there, and it'll create an ember. So, nice kit.
Motion's important so you don't just blow all the dust away.
Right.
It's been smoking too long.
Now, one of the things you learn on these expeditions, or even from reading enough books, just being aware, as I've been trying to be the last couple of years intensely, is that there really are no experts, really. When you really talk to these people, some have large egos. He didn't, because there's still a lot that Mark's still learning. He learned from Tom Brown back in 1989, and he talked to me and told me how, or he actually says on his website as well, that it changed his life. And this guy was actually a consultant for Bear Grylls. Some of you know him from the Discovery Channel on the show Man vs. Wild. We got to go to the second clip, and this again is 2 out of 4 clips that I'm going to attempt to share with you tonight. And later on in time, after I rest, I'm going to edit some of this down. The website's, of course, going to be coming up for the man, Mark Weinart, who runs this school. We'll be right back.
Some pine. We have some new pine cut, or some old Doug fir, it looks like. And we just needed to make a kitchen rack to wash our dishes and our pots and pans in. And so before these guys could eat, they had to make this so we could wash our dishes. So we sunk a post. We ate some of the inner bark of the pine, so everybody had a chance to eat some of the inner bark. It was a survival food. I'll just peel off a piece here.
Yeah, I'd like to try some.
So you can see.
So this is edible. The inner bark is edible.
Right.
Of what tree again?
Pine.
Pine. Okay.
All pines.
It's definitely tough. With a hint of, I don't know. Doesn't exactly taste like chicken. It's actually pretty good. You can actually call it the jerky of the tree family.
Debris wall, it's called. And the reason we decided to build this was because we were getting so much wind in. I wanted to show them how you could build a barrier between wind and your working space or living space. And also, it can be part of a shelter. A stacked debris wall can be one
So
wall.
like the kitchen, we have some sticks that we've got into the ground, driven into the ground. The layering system here of branches to keep the wind out. Because down here we have a bed.
A bed.
How does it feel?
Cozy. Right. Bad a little bit. No, that's about right.
And so you're also trying to determine which way the wind blows before putting this up?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. It is quite soft.
Pretty comfortable, isn't it?
I'm kind of surprised.
And this cuts my carving down time a lot. A point where...
Oh, by the way, it's really cold out here, and I just realized that I forgot my sweatshirts at home. All 3 of them sitting on my bed. I think I'm a hat person now, even though I said earlier that I'm not. Now, one thing I want to point out, yeah, don't forget your extra clothes. Not a good one. One thing I want to point out is that I also came into this adventure with a unrealistic viewpoint, unrealistic perspective, because I'm still learning. I'm like a child with some of this information, while I'm a full-blown adult with information about the New World Order superstate. Well, people 3 times my age, many of them are children on that level. We're at different levels. All of you have something to offer. The magic that you hold within your heart to change the world. And you don't know that magic that lies within your heart to change the world. Then nothing happens. Nothing's created. No one believes in anything but their own enslavement. One thing that was unrealistic about the way I looked at it is that you could survive on wild edible plants. There is some bad news for many of you vegans and vegetarians out there in a survival situation unless you're living with a garden. And I was kind of disappointed there wasn't a lot of edible plants. There was salal, and the berries are good. The leaf is used for medical purposes, for dealing with wounds. You could rub it on your wounds and whatnot, the salal leaf. and another tree, which I forget the name of, manzanita, I believe, which is a very strong circular-shaped red tree, very hard. Great for like making like primitive weapons and things of that nature. Very hard. In fact, it's really hard to even cut through it with a knife. So you have to use something a little more rigid, stronger, like a pruning saw or something along those lines. And my point is this: that was a little upsetting. So you have to be aware in the region that you're at, because a lot of people are watching this outside the U.S. and some people are watching this on the East Coast. The native plants that are in your own area. And another thing that was recommended to me is that when it comes to identifying wild plants, you have 3 books you can cross-reference because there are misprints, there are accidents, and the universal edibility test that I talked about a couple months ago is actually kind of risky. It's not foolproof, and you know, it's a last-ditch resort. You really want to be aware of the plants that are in your area, and there's really no getting around that. Caller, how you doing?
Hello, Alex.
Hi.
This is Mark. I wanted to share some ideas, and hopefully you'll comment.
Mm-hmm.
The author of the Portland Red Book decided that his life goal was to save the planet, not to improve his social or economic position.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that as a worldview, as a perspective?
It's the concept of why we're trying to survive, just for the human being or for the whole of the planet, and trying to figure out how those two can coexist. A lot of people, when it comes to survivalism, you'll find a couple different schools of thought. Living within nature, man with wild, you know, the natural, basically shattering the illusion of indoor-outdoor. And since I was a little kid, I always thought that was weird. And I look at little kids, and they naturally gravitate outside, outside, as my roommate's 2-year-old child is constantly saying, like a mantra, outside, because he always wants to go outside, always indicating the bees and the birds and water, drinking water. Now, you have other survivalists that will tear apart everything that they can. Now, you see us chopping up some dead wood here, but a lot of it's stuff that's already brittle and naturally is decaying in the wild. You'll find some that'll just cut down a whole slew of trees just to make themselves a Lincoln log shelter. And, you know, how much is too much? So you have to be, I would say, balanced and respectful when considering what it takes to survive in the wild. And if we keep taking more than we need, in the long run, the species can't survive and may not survive the way we're going.
From a liberation theology perspective, survivalism is opposed to solidarity and cooperation. Günter Grass has a poem titled The Egg, in which he says that we are born in the egg, and our whole life project is to break the shell, to discover that resistance is part of our nature, just as antibodies are part of our bodies.
Right.
To me, death comes in all kinds of forms, and that it's vital to recognize the spiritual and political corruption. I watched a program on public access on spirituality and healing, and they emphasize sharing resources, listening to all voices, and opening your heart. And one of them said that opening our hearts is really the greatest miracle. I think there's a lot of truth in that, and I wish we would strive to be more inclusive, you know, to see that Christianity and Buddhism, for example, insist that the ego must die for the self to be born.
Good point.
So thanks for your passion.
Thank you. That's a great point. And those are a lot of things that we should remember when considering, of course, what it means to be a human. Do that. We got another rolling. And this is going to be, I believe, a short explanation of how we built a emergency shelter. This emergency shelter I slept in last night. And it actually wasn't that comfortable, but I thought I would at least do it one time. We'll be right back. Using natural rope, and this actually comes from cedar. Live cedar is best, or if it's partially dead, it's good to soak it in water. And that's what we're using to tie in each post over here. We're also going to, I'd like to reinforce the post because I'm definitely not confident that the amount of things that we're going to add on the top of this immediate shelter, emergency shelter, is going to be able to stay up. In a rush, work it down. work the cedar branch down. If you go too quickly, it's not really going to work. See here, I'm at a point right here where I have to get around this part of the branch. So,
yes, these could go down. You have to have something to waterproof this.
On here, yeah.
Right. Right. So what are we going to use?
We're going to have to use branches and leaves and branches and leaves and branches.
Yeah, so we're just going to be piling all this stuff on there, and piling stuff inside. So this, the scenario here is sort of like, well, you don't have a sleeping bag. You don't have the comfort of that of a sleeping pad or a sleeping bag. You can do it like that. Yep. Very good.
Okay. As you can see here, we got some backup right here. We've sheeted here. We got a little real rope here, but the natural rope's the cedar that you see right here. We've got a couple V's right here that's holding it in place, and a mixture of debris, not dirt, but debris. Just some pine needles in and stuff that would actually be great for kindling on top of it. Some leaves.
What type of camera is that?
Yeah. So bark is good for insulating it so the rain doesn't get in then.
Not insulating, but it's like a shield.
Like a shield.
It's like well, imagine this is tile. How many roof tile? Same shape, just different material. Right, so this is, the rain will run off this. These are to help protect your hut. Help protect you from all of this debris falling in your face. And so you pile debris on. This is the fastest debris hut I've ever built. Mm-hmm. And why it works so great back east is because of all of the leaf litter from the hardwood trees. There's so much, in areas there's so much leaf litter that you can literally build these very quickly. We're out west, as you can see, especially in this area, we have very little debris, and it's lousy debris. It's not leaf, it's pine needles, and it compacts. So it doesn't have a lot of insulation value. Because the only reason a debris hut works is because of the insulation, a minimum of 2 feet thick on the walls. And your body heats the interior of the hut. And you know that you really, when you have when it has sort of a dome, if it's a low profile shelter, and which is a really good thing, and I always, if I have ladies at class, I always kind of talk about that because, man is the biggest predator out in the woods. That's the one you have to watch out for, human beings out there. I'm much more concerned about humans than I am bears or mountain lions or snakes. And so, a good idea to think about as security camping is if you want to blend into the landscape off the trail, if you're making a natural shelter, that's even better because they blend in. Or you can take some of the brush and make a fence in front of your tent, and that kind of just, most people walk by and never see it, so you have a little bit of security there. And so a debris hut, a leaf shelter, or a lean-to with natural materials blends in, which can be not a good idea if you're out there trying to survive and you're waiting for search and rescue to come and get you. You want to be seen. So in that case, you're going to have to tie a red bandana to your debris hut or your leaf hut, whatever, lean-to, or make some sort of signal arrangement for search and rescue so they can find you. People hiking on the trail, some way they'll notice you. So I see people walk by our debris huts all the time because they blend in so well and they're not.
Another thing to be aware of in the woods is that there's a lot of meth labs in operation right now. There are Colombians that are patrolling with semi-automatic weapons, Northern California, where the pot plants are located. And we do have mob activity involved in some of the things happening in our national parks, whether you're aware of that or not. I talked with Mark's wife, who works for the, she's a ranger. She does also like specimens on salmon and fish and wildlife. And yeah, she shared with me some interesting stories. But on a side note, I did want to mention that there are a couple books that she recommended to me based on my interests and my motivations for coming out there. Cadillac Desert by Mark Reisner, R-E-I-S-N-E-R. Another one, Guns, Germs, and Steel by Jared Diamonds. And Hopi Survival Kit by Thomas Emails. Interesting name. Another one is Don Coyote by Dayton O. Hyde. She says she includes this because he ranched in much the same way that her father did. This next clip finalizes what we're showing tonight in the rough cut. In this clip, we actually got a fire started. And from that, we'll show you a clip of that. We'll be right back. Give me the lowdown on this creature that we have an excellent shot of right here, as you can see on the screen.
Well, it's a rough-skinned newt, and in the spring and summer they come down to the lakes and breed and live. And they have a rough skin. That's why they call them rough-skinned newts. And if you flip them over, they have sort of a yellow-orange belly. It's actually more of an orange belly. Mm-hmm. And let's see if I can get this guy. They're pretty sharp. They can see you. I mean, they watch you. And what happened? Just kidding.
Oh yeah.
You can see how beautiful they are. But what they have inside of them is a neurotoxin. Is very poisonous. And occasionally you hear college guys, you know, doing the challenge, and of course they eat one and they die. So not a good idea to do that with rough-skinned newt. Which would be...
So I think we've collectively decided that it's not deep enough. You say the first step is about a foot deep?
Yeah. Oh.
Here's a good stick source.
I got a lot.
Good stuff. Considering the fact that you may just have one match or one coal.
Oh no,
It's not tight enough like that. We're not even spinning it.
well, you might have a cold though.
Yeah, we might.
Yeah, fan it with your
I
hand.
think you do. You got a black spot in there.
Fan it with your hand. Let me take a look at it.
That's
Keep
cold.
fanning it.
That is cold.
Keep fanning it.
Right.
Cool.
So, you might want to open the door, or you can probably take that bark off. Towards you. There you go. Okay. Now remove the board.
Okay.
Now carefully, gently pick up the tinder bundle and cradle it.
Kind of swarm it around there a little.
And I want you to stand up. Okay, but you need to bring, yeah, cup it in.
You want to get down toward the fire when you do that, right?
Okay, there you go. Now raise it up and start blowing.
Oh shit.
Work?
Yeah, it's working.
Is it?
Here we go.
The fire is sending the heat out into the lean-to, back of the lean-to, and it's being absorbed and reflected back. So it's actually containing the heat. The fire, we've built the fire parallel, the lean-to, the fire parallel to the wind flow, so it's not blowing smoke in their faces. And it's kind of going away from them, and it's not blowing it into or on top of the shelter, which is pretty cool. And so it's the heat is absorbing into the lean-to, reflecting back. I can feel the heat from here, but that kind of holds the heat in.
I felt it a lot more sitting in there down low at the level of the heat,
At
too.
the heat, yeah.
This is some of what you saw, highly flammable. And this is made from some natural rope. That was what he initially put the coal in. A lot of people are watching this show for the first time with their mind blown, going, well, what's this guy talking about? It's so strange. Honey, look at that guy. He's crazy. Yeah, well, if standing up for your freedom, which has nothing to do with politics, is crazy, go ahead and lock me up. Go ahead and call me a loon. I appreciate it because it makes me remember just how much work I have to do. These things, this information that I've been talking about for a couple of years now is going to become much more relevant and valid to all of you in the years to come. My hope is that you get the information that you need psychologically, mentally, spiritually, physically to survive the storm that's not coming but is already here. Some people talk about 2012 while some people talk about this summer. This moment is the only moment that really matters. So my friends, take one piece of advice from me, and that's get a helmet. Until next week, I'm Alex Ansary, reminding you the path to the ultimate truth that we're all still searching for still starts within. See you next week.